So this film encompasses many things about Ireland, family, shame, Catholic guilt. What struck you and Enda initially as you were adapting the story in the sense of the themes that I mentioned?
Something you didn't mention.
Okay.
Which is grief for me. Which is what I consider the engine of the story. And what attracts me to a story is I need something personal to tell this. And grief, like the tragedy that happens in the movie, something similar I experienced in my life, and something that I always come back to, kind of trying to structure grief in the denial, the anger, and then the acceptance, and then how that makes you stronger. And that was in terms, that was my journey. That was my journey, my investigation into the story. Also, the Catholic Church and the dominance and everything else is with it, but that for me was more, and I don't want to say that in a disrespectful way, that was for me the design, but not the engine.
Right. Speaking of Enda, what sensibility does he bring to the adaptation? How does his experience as a preeminent Irish playwright make the cold prose of a novel into the dialogue subtleties of cinema?
What he can do, and I think it's very important, he can write the top of the iceberg. And what he can write is what's not dialogue. I mean, like, he knows what in between. Cool. And what he understands is why you, as an audience, what you bring to the film, you get from it. That's something.
Yeah, I was reading, too, that he was with Cillian in Disco Pigs in 1996. Yeah. Talk about a full circle moment. Yeah. To come up, and now he's an Oscar-winning actor. That's crazy. That's part of the pedigree of the film, though.
I think what Cillian did was he brought everyone he really loves to the project.
Yeah.
So he knows Enda forever.
Yeah.
And I was also suggesting to bring Eileen, who plays his wife, Eileen Wells, with him, because you get so much for free when they sit next to each other. You get everything for free. Yeah. So I think there was like an environment where we could make mistakes and be extremely vulnerable to each other and be very open. And I could talk about my trauma. They could talk about relationships. And I think that all helped to make these silences meaningful and layered.
Speaking of Cillian, he wears the burden of the character like an encompassing overcoat. What did this precise and notable actor know about Bill that surprised even you and Enda, and where does it reveal itself in the story?
Oh, yeah, I think what I only can talk about the procedure, how we did it.
Sure.
What I've done with Cillian is I mapped out grief and on huge maps, like on a timeline, and everything what I was going through in associations with the script. If you would see it, you would think I'm mentally ill. But it's like that's where I went through. And I was sharing with Cillian, so long before we started shooting, he knew exactly which point, and structuring that. Nice. And I think to fill up these silences, and then he was also a producer, so I brought him to all the locations up front and explained him what I got in mind. So we could start like on an extremely comfortable level, now knowing exactly from each other what we are after. And that was like the greatest thing that could ever happen in a kind of sometimes of prep. Sometimes actors come to a place or a location and say like, I thought it would be different. That was never the case. Right. And of course he happened to be, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best actors on the planet.
Sure.
So that was like a joyride. It was really, sometimes shooting can be hard, but this was like very, very nice.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, but cinema is the fever dream of psychopaths. Okay.
I can't remember
that. I love the Dickens angle because it's definitely a Dickensian story. Yeah. What elements that feel most like Dickens emerge from your visual palette?
Dickensian, but I didn't want to be a slave of it.
Right. No, I know. It's
So
just
there's
irrelevant,
kind of,
but-
I remember long discussions persuading the DOP for a Christmas tree in the back. There was, of course, the filth of the hands, which
Yeah.
feels very Dickensian,
Yeah.
and how his face looks, and the poverty.
Yeah.
And these are very Dickens. I know Claire Keegan, the writer, is a huge fan of Dickens. But I was as kind of what Ireland is and where I come from as well.
Right.
Is it feels like all these winters are warm and all these summers are cold and there's always rain, and it almost never snows. Sometimes it does, but it almost
Yeah.
never snows.
Yeah.
And there's this condensation against.
Yeah.
But it's horribly cold, but it doesn't snow and it's wet. That felt for me. That was kind of the mood that we were after.
Well, his orphan status was also very
Of course.
Dickensian.
Yeah.
The Magdalene scandal is a close second to the pre-scandals of the Catholic Church. As the institution becomes less relevant because of its human sins, how do you believe they should atone to the world for their destructive actions?
Oh, they got a lot to explain. A lot to explain. I think what they were been doing is like when everybody had to be silent, couldn't talk about anything,
Right.
and I think they own an awful lot to the victims who are still alive and around.
Yeah.
And I think the Catholic Church. I think in Belgium the Pope was around in Belgium. He invited like 5 victims, and they get 5 minutes to talk to him. That's not how you have to deal with it.
No.
And they are still lying about it and still not open about it, and they just don't want to close the door. It's truly embarrassing in this day and age.
So this is set at Christmas time. In the context of the story, how does the Christmas spirit play a hand in the film's tone for both Bill's interaction with the convent and his own sad soul associated with the holiday?
Oh yeah, I think Christmas is family, means family.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's at the center of the story, like what you do with the family and how, and I think his dilemma, which is at the center of it, when I'm facing injustice, am I going to do something about it or not? How is my family going to sacrifice from it? And it's always important in why everybody is silent while they're facing injustice. That's most of it the reason. And that's something I investigate myself as well as being a father of 2 kids.
Right.
Like, how far do you want to go? And that's you have to be very careful for autocracies or when we get absolute power and we can't question anything, abuse will happen.
Yeah. So Bill is a product of the matriarchy made plain by the proclamation that his name is his mother's. What do you think he knows about women, even the Mother Superior, that a different Irish man wouldn't know? And I have a follow-up.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's actually the best question I ever had. I don't know how to answer that. What I can say, what I understand, this is what I understand, and that was also the case in Belgium. I think being 45 in 85, Ireland, being a man means you're not allowed to talk about your emotions.
Right.
Just not allowed.
Right.
You don't do it.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
So I think you're losing your mother as a kid. I think we get the scene where the stepmother, where Michelle Fairley's character says like, "Okay, it's good, kid. It's been a week now.
Right.
I go to school.
You gotta
You get
go
back
back
from
to
school.
school.
Now
Right.
you go back. It's over. Don't talk about this." So you get this kind of delayed grief, and he built kind of an emotionally concrete wall in front of him. So it's like a volcano going there. And I think Sister Mary knows that.
Yes,
And she
definitely.
plays with it.
Oh, God, yes.
And she plays with it. And that's the symbol of the fire, the volcano inside of him, the fire, her. I think always I see her, she's like a... What you said, like, film is a fever dream of psychopaths? I believe she's inside of him. She's inside of him. She's in his unconsciousness. And
The first time he disarmed her, though, is when he said, "My name is my own, and it's my mother's."
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really was.
Beautiful.
Final question. Do you have a pet project that you want to bring to the screen? Are you seeking opportunity in the journey of one piece of TV and film work at a time?
What I've done, I'm just editing as we speak another film I shot with Cillian Murphy, which is more baroque and more less minimalistic, and it's about a caretaker who's looking after criminal kids. It's always different. I don't know what's going to happen. TV, I just love film. I love the line.
I'm glad you made the transition.
Yeah. But
well,
there was opportunity to train yourself and to exercise, which was important.
If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2024.